We continue our knowledge sharing mission through a series of interviews with marketing leaders from all over the world, and are thrilled to have Vivienne Horsfall with us today. So Vivienne, can you tell us a bit about your role at CMO Security and of course who you are?
Hi everyone, welcome to CMO Chats. So I am Vivienne Horsfall and I'm the Director of Field Marketing at APJ at Transmit Security. My role at Transmit is that I lead the field marketing team across Asia, Pacific and Japan. And I basically are turning big pictures or global strategies into regional relevant campaigns. So I'm a bit of a strategist, I'm a bit of a ringmaster, balancing different activities from events and demand gen, PR, and also running the SDR team. So I'm taking that global vision and translating it into a local success. So I've worked for technology companies for over 20 years, both in startups and established, and within the cybersecurity industry for about 10 years. In identity security, which is where Transmit plays, I've been doing this for about 7 years, and I'm in my third year with Transmit now. So what do I see as a bit different is I think it's all about authenticity, understanding what we're trying to do and understanding what the customers want and understanding what the business is looking to achieve as well, and bringing all of those together. That's my role at Transmit.
Amazing. Thanks for that, Vivienne. And what does your company do?
We work in the identity security space. We look after, or we believe that providing great customer experience is done by having great security. So if you can actually know 100% who it is on the other end of your digital website or your mobile app, etc., then you can give that person the kind of customer experience they want. And on the other side is that if you don't know who it is, then you give them that same thing. So if you think perhaps it's a bad actor or it might be a bot or something, then you give them the kind of experience that they should have as well. So we help customers to enable that to happen. And we do it differently in the sense that we've brought both customer identity and access management with identity verification and fraud prevention. Bringing these three things together, we believe helps break down the silos and also then closes the gaps where we're seeing fraudsters get in today. So that's what we're doing at Transmit, and that's where we're very strong. And we're working with some very big enterprises across the globe.
Thanks for sharing that, Vivienne. And as the Director of Field Marketing at Transmit Security, what's currently your main marketing focus?
So at the moment, the main marketing focus from marketing perspective is getting message out there. It's driving meaningful conversations. We're trying to get to the right people within the right organizations. It's not about just ticking a box or getting an MQL. It's about knowing exactly who to speak to and what they want to talk about as well, not just what we want to talk about, to make sure we're both aligned to the same thing. So we're focused on, as I mentioned before, that whole blending of fraud prevention and customer identity. So we're trying to break down the pillars. In the past, you wouldn't have an event where you invited people from different divisions. You tended to be more specific to one. But what that does is it keeps those silos going when really everybody's trying to go for the same solution. And what we find is fraudsters are great at doing this. They collaborate all the time. So we're trying to do the same thing and set up opportunities for customers and prospects to actually collaborate with their peers to see what they're doing, to find out what's working, what's not working, and to learn what the latest technologies are that are out there that can help them achieve their challenges.
And can you tell me about a particularly innovative or successful marketing campaign that I guess your team has recently executed that wielded success in terms of engagement and lead generation?
So in terms of success, greater success has been where sales and marketing have that symbiotic relationship. So, where we're working together and, that's when we're bound for success. So, when a salesperson actually says something like, that campaign really helped close something, or it helped move the needle a little bit, that's when we know we've had a really successful campaign. And where we've seen that is in events, customer roundtables and hosted events where we've closely curated the conversation based on conversations we've had with sales to ensure that we're actually talking about things that they are hearing their customers want to learn more about. So it's running events that are listening to sales, listening to our customers and delivering on that, as opposed to what we think is what our customers want to hear or what our prospects want to hear. So we've seen a lot of opportunities. We're all about pipeline. That's a non-negotiable, I think, in any company. So that's where we've seen with these hosted events and these executive roundtables that we've seen the greatest success.
Absolutely. I think that's also something that I resonate with, coming, from a sales background, working with our marketing team as well. So it's really great insight. Going into the next question, what are your biggest marketing challenges at the moment?
Attention. Buyers are overwhelmed. Generic marketing, it's dead. You can't do that anymore. People just switch off. I think it's actually almost like an invisible marketing. There's so much noise and people are doing business in a different way. People are far more self-sufficient. They do a lot more research. They don't want to waste time. They're not coming into the office every day. When they are in the office, they want to be focused on office activities. Otherwise, it's a much more dispersed locations where people are. So I think that's a lot more difficult to bring people together and to get people's attention and to get, to speak to customers, because they don't want to speak to you until they're much further down the track. They don't want to be, they'll contact you. They don't want to be contacted. So it's finding that balance of giving them the information, finding out where they're reading, finding out where they're researching, making sure that you're putting your information there, but then also ensuring that you are providing the information that's relevant and resonates, not just information for the sake of information. I think that's really, really important. And I also think that we need to balance the MarTech sprawl, and we need to have a human side of marketing. We kind of lose that a little bit, where automation just seems to want to replace everything, and it can't. And then all of a sudden we become very robotic ourselves, and then we're no longer actually speaking to the people we want to speak to. So I think that, where, ChatGPT and all of these AI-based activities are great and they all have their place, don't get me wrong, I use them, but it's not a cut and paste. And we've got to be careful not to just become a simple cut and paste and then look like everybody else, or look like we don't actually care, that we're just, kind of throwing things out there, hoping things will stick. That's a very old-fashioned way. And I think that we've got the tendency to do that again, because it's easy with these new technologies that provide things a lot faster. So being authentic is really, really important. And I think people pick up on that.
Agreed. And what do you believe is the biggest opportunity for marketing leaders today that might not have been available in the past?
Human connections. I think that you've got to have human connections. I think that we have learned that, we need to work closer with sales, that it's all about working together, I think is the key. We've got to be doing things a little bit differently, approaching things from a different perspective. We're orchestrators. That's what we are. So we're orchestrating things, whether it's orchestrating customer journeys and making sure that when people come in, we're providing the right information at the right time throughout their journey without going too far and then, spamming people. I mean, nobody wants to be spammed. So I think the key is looking at the market and looking at your customers the way that you want to be treated. So how, what annoys you. So don't do the same. Don't be the same as everybody else. Differentiate, be empathetic, be considerate to others. I think that we sometimes lose that sight of it. Make empathy your superpower.
Agree. I think empathy goes a long way, especially in this day and age, right? And
Yeah.
going into the next question, what is the role of the CMO in one word and why?
I kind of answered that with the whole idea of the orchestrator. You're conducting everything. You're conducting the brand, the demand, the sales, the ops, and you're also trying to affect culture, making sure that, you're internally, your team are all happy internally and we're all working together towards the same thing. It's like, doing a team event is just as important as doing a customer event, and making sure that you're not just doing something that is cookie cutter that everybody does. Look for things that actually have meaningful, Has everybody clapping at the end? Has the audience happy if they're customers, having your team going, that was great, we had so much fun, and talking about it. You want everybody talking about what you did afterwards. So it's kind of that orchestration as well as being a empathetic person.
Thanks for that, Vivienne. So going into the next question, what's a piece of traditional leadership advice that you believe doesn't really apply to modern CMOs?
Owning the entire full customer journey from awareness to retention and trust is really important. You don't hold just one part. This whole concept of pinpoint marketing, whereby you do one thing or you do something else, you can't do that. It all needs to be integrated. You need to be having a consistent conversation, whether it is from an internal communication to an external, and then across the entire customer journey needs to be something whereby you're adding to the story as you go. We're all storytellers, and I think that has to be it. They're all chapters, as opposed to tell the entire story, as opposed to trying to do everything, or leaving things out because you think, oh, that's not my area. I think that it needs to be something whereby we're all in this together, and I think that is really important from a customer care perspective, all the way through to from sales. Every touch point needs to be communicating in the same way, with the same language, culture, etc. But yeah, it needs to be integrated, not pinpoint. And building communities. It's all about building communities.
Exactly.
So your customers, building communities for your own team.
That's great, Vivian. I think for a lot of it is really the human touch, right? That's very important to really keep it ongoing, and that can be seen across different aspects of the business. So we're in the last question, and that question is, what career advice would you like to share with other marketing leaders?
Here it's learn each step. Don't jump. We have a tendency today to think, oh, well, I've done something once, therefore I'm now an expert. Actually become masters of each thing that you do. It will help you if you get your foundations right. So I think that it's really important to understand your industry, understand your market, understand your customers, understand your company objectives, understand your sales team. What is it that everybody is trying to do? What is it that everybody is trying to do? Be curious. Don't just chase tools, chase what makes people act. We are still human. You can't lose sight of that. So I think it's really important not to rush through things and to be considerate to the entire process. And the more you learn from those around you, everybody's got something to share. Make sure you're part of it. Make sure you're listening to what they have to say. It's okay to make mistakes, learn from them, and then, that's how you grow. So I think that's really important.
And I agree. Thanks for that, Vivienne.